The door swung open with a faint chime, barely catching the attention of anyone inside. Jackson stepped into the store, his posture slightly hunched, shoulders heavy with time and tension. His glasses, thick and outdated, sat unevenly on his face. His clothes, cargo pants, worn sneakers, a faded button-up tucked too neatly, made him look like a man lost in the wrong decade. He moved with quiet intention, like someone used to being overlooked. Near the counter, 3 employees huddled around a phone, laughter echoing in small bursts. Troy, the youngest among them, glanced briefly in Jackson's direction before returning to whatever was on the screen. Not one of them said hello. Not one offered help. Jackson's steps were slow, deliberate, as he made his way to the laptop section. He studied the shelves with the sharp eyes of someone who once paid attention to every detail. But now, those eyes were clouded by something more than age. Disappointment, perhaps, or the exhaustion of caring too much for too long. He stopped in front of a gaming laptop. A taped-up sign dangled crookedly beneath it. $849 today only. The price caught his attention. Or maybe it was the bold red letters that tried too hard to scream urgency. He turned, raising a polite hand. "Excuse me, young man. Could I get some help over here?" Troy finally walked over, hands shoved deep into his hoodie pocket. He didn't smile. "Yeah, what are you looking for?" Jackson motioned toward the laptop. "Something for my grandson. He's 16, needs a good machine for school, and games, of course." Troy barely looked. "That one's $1,400, best one we've got." Jackson blinked. "It says $849. Troy shrugged without interest. "Yeah, that sign's old. Price went up. Happens all the time." No apology. No attempt to help. Just another day. Later that evening, Jackson sat alone at his office desk. His sleeves were rolled. Tie loosened like a man unraveling quietly in private. The only sound was the low hum of the AC. Spreadsheets cluttered his monitor, numbers dancing like cold facts without faces. Store 4, down 12%. Store 7, worse, 18% drop. 2 quarters in a row. Tabs with customer feedback flashed open. The words leapt out. "Staff was rude." Felt ignored. "No one helped me." Jackson leaned back, his jaw clenched tight. One hand rested on the mouse, the other pressed lightly to his temple, as if trying to soothe the headache of something deeper than numbers, a betrayal of purpose. He knew Store 7. Knew it well. That was where his father started everything. With a quiet click, he closed the performance report and opened a different file. Employee turnover. The graph was as steady as it was damning. Down, down, down. He reached for his notepad and scribbled 2 numbers, 4 and 7. He circled them slowly. No more excuses. No more summaries. If something was broken, he had to see it. Not from a report, but with his own eyes. He opened a drawer and pulled out a photo that had grown soft from time and memory. His father stood in front of Store 1. No suit, just a white shirt, sleeves rolled. A name tag that read, Martin, owner. One arm wrapped around a young employee. The kind of smile you don't fake. Pride, purpose, connection. Jackson stared at the image, the corners of his mouth twitching into something between grief and gratitude. He remembered the scent of that old store. The waxed floors, the dusty shelves, the clean smell of effort. Martin knew every name, every birthday, who worked weekends, who needed a second chance. When Jackson was a boy, his father made him shake every employee's hand before they left for the day. Respect doesn't come from a title, Martin always said. It's built from the floor up. He placed the photo beside the report. 2 different worlds, one filled with people, the other with numbers. And somehow, both were slipping away. The next day, Jackson sat across from Mr. Carter in a glass conference room, small and sterile. Carter's tablet was already open, filled with graphs, charts, metrics. Proof of everything and nothing. "We're tracking slightly below forecast," Carter reported, "but conversion rates are solid. Upsell ratios are improving. Store 7's accessory tickets jumped last month." Jackson nodded once, his face unreadable. Carter continued, "Customer dwell time is up." Jackson interrupted, which could mean stronger engagement, or they're just waiting too long for help. Carter paused, smiling slightly. "We're adjusting staff flow to compensate." Jackson leaned back. "How often do you actually visit Store 7? Carter hesitated. "I monitor the weekly dashboard." "Have you walked the floor?" Jackson asked. Carter gestured to the screen. "We have systems for that. Our feedback loop is pretty tight." Jackson glanced at the tablet again. A dozen colorful graphs. Not a single human face. "I think I'll go take a look myself," he said quietly. That evening, he scrolled through his contacts and tapped a name he hadn't used in years. "Diane?" he asked when she answered. "You still work with theater wardrobe?" She laughed. "What's the role?" He glanced at the photo of his father, then at his reflection. An old man, a little slower than me. Glasses, cargo pants, the kind of guy no one notices. The next morning, Diane arrived with a small suitcase. Her tools of transformation. Inside, a thinning wig, fake age spots, a slouched jacket, thick-rimmed glasses. She adjusted the wig carefully, studying him in the mirror. "You sure about this?" she asked. "You're the CEO." "That's exactly why I need to see it like they do," Jackson replied. He turned to face the mirror again. A stranger looked back. Older, softer, easily ignored. Diane handed him a receipt. "Buy something cheap. Blend in. No one trusts a shopper who asks too many questions." Jackson nodded, slipping the receipt into his pocket. This time, he wouldn't be seen as the boss. He'd be seen, if anyone bothered looking, as just another man. And that's exactly what he needed. The next morning, Jackson stood alone in his garage, the hatch of his car lifted open like a curtain to a quiet stage. A small mirror leaned against the wall, reflecting a version of himself that hadn't yet stepped into the world. The duffel bag lay open, its contents more costume than clothing, each piece carrying the weight of a role he was about to inhabit. He slipped into the cargo pants. They hung loose at his waist, like they belonged to a man who had stopped caring how he looked. The oversized polo sagged around his shoulders. Next came the wig, gray and patchy, unnervingly realistic under the harsh fluorescent lights of the garage. He pressed it down, fingers brushing across the synthetic strands with surgical precision. The part had to be just off-center, just imperfect enough. Then the glasses. Heavy lenses changed how the world looked, and how the world would look back at him. He practiced his posture in the mirror, slowing his steps, stiffening his knees, rounding his shoulders. His voice dropped to a gentler, unsure cadence. "Excuse me, son," he murmured, drawing out the vowels. "Looking for a laptop. Something for my grandson." He repeated it, each time smoothing the edges. Not quite southern, just worn, like a man shaped by long hours, not long speeches. In the reflection, he didn't see a leader or a CEO. He saw what he needed to see. Someone people forget. Jackson zipped the duffel shut and stood still for a long breath. He wasn't walking in to be heard. He was walking in to be ignored. The automatic doors slid open as Jackson stepped into Store 7. His gait was measured, 1 foot slightly behind the other, like time had carved unevenly into his bones. The lights were bright, the floors polished to a cold perfection. Screens gleamed from every corner, but no one looked up. To his right, 2 employees leaned against the accessories counter, one thumbing through a phone, the other watching a video through earbuds. They chuckled at something unseen, untethered from their surroundings. Behind the service desk, a third staff member tapped idly on a tablet. No acknowledgement, not even a glance. Jackson lingered just past the entrance. He adjusted his glasses with a practiced hesitation, eyes sweeping across the store like someone unsure where to go. Still, nothing. No greeting, no smile, no welcome. He shifted slightly, hand brushing the edge of his jacket, a familiar gesture from a man used to being visible. It meant something once. Here, it meant nothing. For a moment, he didn't feel like a CEO in disguise. He felt like every elderly customer who'd ever been made to feel like background noise. He made his way to the laptop aisle, slow and quiet, and stopped at a familiar display marked Performance Models. There it was, the same laptop, the same taped-up sign. $849 today only. Troy strolled over, gum popping between words, his fingers still dancing on his phone as he approached. Need something? Jackson nodded slightly. This one's for my grandson. 16. Plays games, does schoolwork. Good one, Troy said flatly. It's $1,400. Jackson squinted. Sign says $849. Troy didn't even glance. Yeah, they didn't update the tags. Happens all the time. Jackson's expression didn't change, but something in his chest tightened. Could you double-check the system just to be sure? Troy shook his head without hesitation. Nah, I'm good. I know that one. It's 1100 now. No computer, no scan. Just empty certainty. Jackson studied Troy's face. There was no interest, no curiosity. Just the dull confidence of someone who didn't care if he was wrong, because he didn't think it mattered. Are you sure? Jackson asked, voice still calm. Sign's clean, looks recent. Troy chuckled, the sound thin and dismissive. I'm telling you, they mess up signs all the time. Promo ended last week. He didn't move, didn't waver, just folded his arms and shifted his weight like the conversation was already over. Jackson tilted his head gently. Would you mind scanning it, just so I know for sure? Troy sighed, loud and theatrical. Man, I work here. I know what I'm talking about. Then he turned and walked away. No confirmation, no scan, no help. Jackson stood still, one hand resting against the shelf. The price tag was no longer the problem. The sting wasn't the number. It was the indifference. He watched Troy vanish into another aisle. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Not yet. Then, soft footsteps approached. A gentler presence. Sir? A voice said beside him. He turned to see a young woman with a modest ponytail and a badge that read, Lena, Sales Support. I couldn't help overhearing, she said softly. That price is correct. It's part of a weekend promo. Ends tonight. Jackson lifted an eyebrow, his voice measured. Troy said it was $1,400. She frowned slightly, enough to show concern without blame. That's not right. It's definitely $849. I can double-check if you'd like. I'd appreciate that. Lena offered a genuine, quiet smile. Be right back. She moved with purpose. No rush, no hesitation. Just intention. Jackson watched her walk to the terminal and begin typing, focused, fluid. No side glances, no questions for a manager, just clarity. Moments later, she returned. Price is valid, $849, just like the tag says. Jackson looked at her, meeting her eyes. No mistake? She shook her head once. Weekend promo, ends tonight. No pitch, no push, no ego, just truth. If you're interested, she added, I can hold it at the register while you shop. That'd be helpful, Jackson replied quietly. You're welcome, she said with a small nod. As Lena walked away, Jackson watched her disappear behind a display. There was no drama, no spotlight, just decency. In a store full of noise and pretense, her quiet integrity felt louder than anything. He stepped back from the laptop display, fingers loosely folded. Around him, the store told a silent story. A woman in her 50s sat near the service desk, glancing at her watch. No one was there. A man by the headphone wall held 2 boxes, scanning for help. No one noticed. By the tablet section, a teenage boy tapped his foot impatiently while his mother scrolled on her phone. Both looked weary, forgotten. Across the floor, two staff members leaned against a shelf, chatting. One sipped from a company-branded cup, the other scrolled on his phone. Still, motionless. Jackson watched them all, his breath shallow. This wasn't a collapse. It was erosion. A slow leak that no one bothered to patch. Near the printers, an elderly woman approached Derek, who stood leaning on a support column, half watching a screen behind the counter. "Excuse me, young man," she said, her voice hopeful. "Could you tell me where the restroom is?" Derek didn't move, didn't turn. He jerked his thumb vaguely behind him. "Somewhere that way," he muttered, eyes fixed on his screen. The woman blinked, uncertain. She looked in the direction of his gesture, a vague hallway. She hesitated, lips parted slightly, then began to walk, cautious and slow. She turned down the wrong aisle. Derek never looked up. Jackson watched her go, 10 feet away, close enough to intervene. But for now, he didn't. He simply watched. And inside him, something long asleep stirred awake. There was no shouting, no confrontation, just a moment heavy enough to crush the air around it. Sometimes disrespect doesn't come through raised voices. It arrives in silence, in shrugs, in the hollow space left behind when someone chooses not to care. Jackson turned away from the display, feet carrying him slowly toward the mobile accessories corner. Something had changed inside him. Something settled. And it wasn't just disappointment. It was the clarity that comes from seeing truth unfiltered. He slowed as he noticed Lena crouched beside a seated customer, her voice low, her attention fixed. It was the older woman from earlier, the one Derek had brushed off like a piece of lint. Her hands trembled as she held a cracked phone, the screen dim and flickering. "I just need to save the pictures," she whispered, voice brittle. "They're of my grandson. He's 6. Lena nodded gently, her smile warm but restrained. "No problem. We'll get them backed up. I'll walk you through it." She didn't take the phone from her. Didn't rush. Didn't patronize. Lena spoke with patient care, showing each step like it mattered. Because it did. Cloud storage became the most important topic in the world for a few minutes. The woman nodded, squinting, trying to follow every instruction like she was decoding a language not built for her hands. Lena stayed by her side the entire time. No script, no pitch, no time limit, just kindness. And in that quiet act, Jackson saw not just the woman being helped, but the kind of store his father had once built. A place where people mattered more than margins. He stepped to a bench near the tech bar and pulled a notepad from his pocket. The paper was crisp, folded neatly. He wrote 3 names in clean block letters. First, Troy. He underlined it once, pressing the pen hard. Lied, twice. No check, no care. Second, Derek. Another line. Dismissed a customer, didn't lift his head, didn't move. Then, Lena. Pause, honest, present, patient. Across the store, Troy cracked a joke, laughing too loudly, drawing attention that his work never did. Derek slouched by the chargers, eyes buried in his screen again. Unbothered, unmoved. Lena walked past both men, answering a customer's question without missing a step. No clipboard, no fanfare. Just a quiet flame cutting through fog. Jackson tapped his pen once against the page, then set it down. His face remained unreadable, not cold, but calm. A deep current moved behind his eyes. It wasn't anger. It was something rarer. Conviction. He folded the paper and tucked it into his jacket, then stood, slower than he needed to. Deliberate. Back inside his car, the door closed with a soft thud. Jackson sat still, both hands on the wheel. Store 7 stood in front of him. Glass spotless, signs crisp, lights gleaming. On the surface, everything looked perfect. But now he knew better. He reached up and peeled the wig off slowly. The snap of the elastic echoed lightly in the silence. Next, the glasses. Then, the slouched jacket. He caught his reflection in the rearview mirror. A different man stared back. Lines deeper, eyes sharper. Not angry, just awake. Tired, perhaps, but clearer than he'd been in months. Jackson ran a hand through his own hair, then dropped it into his lap. He didn't need to open the notepad. The truth was already burned into him. He picked up his phone, thumbed through his contacts, and tapped the call. "Clear my schedule tomorrow," he said simply. "I need a meeting." The next morning, Mr. Carter entered the conference room, tablet in hand, shirt starched, demeanor confident. Business as usual. Jackson was already seated at the head of the table. No laptop, just a thin folder and a half-full cup of black coffee. "Morning," Carter greeted. "I pulled this week's metrics. Store 7's numbers are still soft, but we saw an uptick in accessories." "I went there yesterday," Jackson interrupted, calm but firm. Carter froze. "Sorry. Store 7? I went in myself. No team, no name badge, just me, in disguise." Carter blinked, caught off guard. "Why would you do that?" Jackson leaned forward, voice measured. "To see what our systems don't show." He let the silence settle before continuing. "I was lied to, twice, about a laptop price, watched a customer ignored, watched another helped, by the only employee who actually gave a damn." Carter opened his mouth, but Jackson didn't wait. "With all due respect," Carter finally said, voice more cautious, "I've been monitoring Store 7. I checked the KPIs weekly. Conversion rates are stable. There haven't been any red flags." Jackson didn't blink. "You saw no problems?" "Not in the data," Carter replied carefully. "Nothing that stood out." Jackson slid a printed sheet across the table. "Read this." It was a customer review. "No one spoke to me. I left without buying anything." He handed over another. "I felt like I was bothering the staff just by asking a question." "I've seen those," Carter said. "Outliers. They happen." "You think that's an outlier?" Jackson's voice didn't rise, but the room felt tighter. He leaned in. "I was told the $849 laptop cost over $1,000, twice. No scan, no confirmation, no apology." Carter hesitated. "That's not in the reports." Jackson nodded. "Exactly." He tapped the table once. "You're watching numbers. I was watching people." He turned his laptop toward Carter. A video clip played silently. Troy leaned against the counter, scrolling, laughing. Time ticked by. 2 minutes, 5, 10. No customer service, no acknowledgement. Another clip. Derek, glancing at his watch, slipping behind the stockroom doors. 11 minutes of nothing. A third clip, a woman confused by headphones, scanning for help. No one came. Carter watched, his confidence shrinking with each second. Jackson let the silence speak louder than any reprimand. "This," Jackson said quietly, "is what I saw. Not a spreadsheet, not a dashboard, just lost time, lost people." The video stopped. The screen went black. Carter exhaled. "It's not ideal," he said weakly, "but we've seen worse. Maybe it was a short-staffed day." Jackson shook his head. "It wasn't a bad day. It was a normal one." He folded his hands on the table, voice even. "You're managing metrics," he said. "I'm trying to lead human beings. KPI dashboards won't show me who lies to a customer, who ignores someone needing help, or who makes an elderly woman feel like she doesn't matter." He leaned closer. "I don't need more data. I need better decisions. From people." In real time, Carter nodded slowly. "I'll talk to the team." "No," Jackson said, calm but unyielding. "I will." The room fell still. A shift had occurred, not in the numbers, but in the man at the helm. That morning, the sun stretched across the parking lot in quiet beams. Jackson stepped out of his car. No disguise. Black polo, dark jeans, real face, real mission. He walked toward Store 7, not as a customer, not as a mystery, but as a leader finally ready to be seen. No clipboard, no entourage, just Jackson. The front doors of Store 7 glide open. Same sterile lobby, same chipped counters, same faces pretending not to see too much. Troy glances up from behind the register. His eyes narrow, recognition flickering for a half-second before fading. He knows the face, but not the story behind it. Not yet. Derek leans near the accessories wall, chatting with another associate, arms folded casually. His laughter bounces off the plastic displays. He doesn't notice Jackson at all. Jackson walks to the customer service desk. No hesitation, no announcement. "Is Lena in?" he asks, voice quiet but firm. The woman behind the counter glances at a screen. "She's on break. She'll be back in 10. Jackson nods once. "Thanks." He doesn't look around, doesn't engage. Today, he didn't come to watch. He came to lead. In the back office, he stands with arms crossed, waiting beneath the sterile hum of the ceiling lights. No papers, no props, just presence. The assistant manager lifts the intercom phone. "Troy and Derek to the office, please." A pause, then the sound of shoes against linoleum. Troy enters first, still chewing gum, expression lax like a man who thinks he's already survived the worst. Derek follows, hands loose, posture cocky. They both stop cold when they see who's waiting. Jackson doesn't invite them to sit. He doesn't need to. "Have a seat," he says evenly. Neither moves. He studies them in silence. The overhead buzz fills the space between them. "Do either of you recognize me?" Troy squints. "You're the guy from yesterday, the laptop guy." Jackson nods once. "I am, and I'm also the name on your paycheck." The room tightens. The chill in the air isn't from the AC. Derek shifts. Troy's gum hangs still in his mouth. Jackson's voice lowers, cutting without raising. "Let's try this again. Who am I?" Troy stares, confused. "You're the old guy, grandson, gaming laptop." "That's one version," Jackson replies calmly. Derek jumps in, voice thin. "You were asking about the weekend promo?" Jackson nods. "Correct, and both of you lied. You ignored me. You dismissed me." He lets that truth hang heavy. "Now, here's who I really am," he says. "Jackson Reed. I own this company, every store, including this one." Troy's skin drains of color. Derek's jaw sets. "I came here in disguise, not to trap anyone, to see if what my father built still lived in these walls. It doesn't." Troy tries to speak, but no words come. "I thought the price had changed," he finally mutters. "Maybe it updated in the system." Jackson interrupts. "Number you didn't say maybe. You said, it's 1,400. Troy fidgets. "That's what I assumed." "You assumed." Jackson steps closer. "Or you saw a chance for a bigger sale and took it?" I was told to push margin." "You were told to lie?" "No, just to upsell. Be confident." "You told me not to check the system. Said you were sure. You weren't confident. You were careless. You gambled I wouldn't notice." Silence stretches like a wire pulled tight. "You didn't just push a product. You pushed a lie," Jackson says. "That's not salesmanship. That's manipulation." Troy swallows. There's nothing left to hide behind. "You're both done here," Jackson says, voice steel now. "Effective immediately." Troy's eyes widen. "Sir, I didn't mean—" "This isn't a debate," Jackson says flatly. Derek tries to recover. "We didn't know who you were." "You shouldn't treat people better because of who they are. You should treat them right because that's your job." Jackson looks to the assistant manager at the door. "Cancel their access. Remove credentials. Today." She nods, stepping out. Troy stammers. "You're firing us, just like that?" "No," Jackson says. "I'm firing you because you earned it." He opens the office door. "Gather your things. Security will escort you." Derek walks out without protest. No defiance, no eye contact. Troy follows, shoulders caved, lips sealed. Shame trails behind them. The door closes with finality. For the first time in months, the store feels still, like something toxic just left the room. Jackson walks back onto the floor. Across the space, Lena returns from break, badge clipped back onto her shirt. She freezes slightly when she sees him, recognition dawning. "You probably don't recognize me without the gray hair," he says, a small smile tugging at one corner. Lena blinks. "You were the grandpa." "I was." She straightens, uncertain. Jackson steps forward. "You're the reason I still believe this place can work." Lena's eyes widen. He doesn't pause. "You told the truth when it was easier not to. You helped someone who didn't even ask. You did what was right, without knowing who was watching." She exhales softly, moved but silent. "I saw it, every moment, and I need more of that here." He leans in, voice low and resolute. "Store 7 needs a leader, not by title, but by presence, someone who shows up." Lena stares, stunned. "Me?" "Yes, starting today you lead the floor team." She almost laughs. "I've never managed anyone, I'm just—" "You're not just anything," Jackson interrupts. "You listen, you care, that's already more than most who wear a title." Her voice softens. "I don't know all the systems." "You'll learn. Skills can be taught. Integrity can't." She pauses, then nods slowly. "I'll try. That's all I ask." As she turns to face the floor, her hands shake slightly, not from fear, but from weight. A new kind of weight. Purpose. She walks beside Jackson now, still quiet, but not invisible. "I don't know if I'm ready," she admits. "There's so much I don't know. I've never run a meeting, never written a schedule." "You don't need to know everything," Jackson says gently. She looks up, uncertain. "You just need to care. Really care." "That sounds simple," she murmurs. "It is," he says, "and that's why most people miss it." He gestures to the floor. "That customer who needed directions? You didn't ignore her. You didn't clock out. You stepped in." She nods slowly. "Don't try to be perfect," Jackson adds. "Just be real. People feel that." Lena glances toward the team. For the first time, she's not just among them. She's holding them together. It's 5:58 a.m. The team gathers near the break room, half awake. Lena stands at the front, no clipboard, just her hands lightly clasped. She clears her throat. "Thanks for being here. I know this week's been a lot, but we've got a chance to reset." Some nod. One yawns. Phones flicker in quiet corners. Caleb leans back against the wall, earbuds in, detached. Lena continues. "We can't fix everything today, but we can fix how we treat each other and how we treat customers." Still, Caleb doesn't look up. She pauses. No anger, just resolve. "One rule from now on," she says clearly. "No one gets ignored." A few heads lift. Some eyes meet hers. Caleb stays slouched. But the room is starting to listen. She looks at Caleb. Her voice stays calm. "Caleb," she says gently, "I need your attention." He doesn't flinch, still scrolling. And in that moment, everything Lena's learned, everything she believes, comes down to what she chooses to do next. A quiet tension settled over the group, thick like fog in early morning. No jokes, no whispers, just a stillness that said everything. Lena didn't raise her voice. She didn't glare or scold. She simply waited. "I know this is new," she said gently, her voice barely above a whisper but unmistakably clear. "But it matters. If we're showing up, let's actually show up." Silence. Caleb removed one earbud. Still didn't look up. It wasn't rebellion. It wasn't respect either. It was that in-between place where apathy lives. Lena inhaled slowly, then nodded like she'd made a decision in her mind. Not impulsive. Measured. "Doors open in 5, she said. "Let's have a better day." No explosion. No grand speech. Just a line drawn in quiet ink. Caleb crossed it without looking back. Both earbuds in, slouching toward the counter. Then Jackson appeared. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. You, he said, nodding once. What's your name? Caleb turned. Caleb, you're done here. What? You're not part of this team anymore. Caleb blinked, searching for sarcasm, finding none. I watched the whole thing, Jackson said. She gave you space. You gave her silence. I didn't even do anything, Caleb scoffed. Exactly, Jackson replied. And that's the problem. The room stilled. Lena didn't move. She didn't need to. If someone disrespects the tone you set, Jackson added, turning to her, they're not ready to follow. Caleb stood in place, stunned. But the decision was final. He slowly walked off to gather his things. No drama, no door slamming, just clarity with consequences. And Lena, she wasn't guessing anymore. She was leading. The morning exploded faster than expected. 2 team members called in sick. A shipment was late. The receipt printer jammed mid-return. Customers swarmed. Lena stood in the eye of the storm, scanning the floor like a captain on a ship taking on water. Her jaw tight, her movements precise. A broken remote, a lost receipt, a toddler crying somewhere near the chargers. Jason floundered. Na juggled repair tickets and a ringing phone. Lena moved between them like a metronome. Jason, the man in green. That's yours. Na, take a breath. I'll grab the call. She didn't raise her voice, but she didn't pause either. Still, the list never got shorter. By noon, the store was barely holding. The staff was upright, but the rhythm was fragile. Lena leaned on the counter for just a second, catching her breath. No one saw the fatigue, but it was there. This wasn't going to be a quick fix, and she knew it now. A woman walked in holding a plastic bag and steadying her son. The boy's arm was in a cast. A cracked tablet balanced in his good hand. They hovered near the entrance, uncertain, tired. Lena didn't shout, didn't wave them over. She walked, software steady. She knelt slightly to meet the boy's eyes. Rough week? She asked quietly. He nodded. Let's fix what we can. She guided them to the desk. No rush, no false promises. She explained the weight, offered a loaner device, even cracked a joke about the kinds of games that don't need screens. The mother exhaled, just a little, and in that breath, Lena gave her something money can't buy: dignity. In the back, Eli stood with a couple comparing smart TVs. The man held specs. The woman stared at the prices. Eli didn't push, didn't pitch. What do you watch mostly? He asked. Sports, movies, kids' stuff? Mostly streaming, the woman said. Sometimes we mirror from our phones. Eli nodded. Then you don't need the top-tier model. This one here will give you what you want and save you a few $100. The man blinked. You're not upselling us? Eli smiled. I'd rather you leave happy and come back, than feel tricked and never return. The couple laughed. Tension softened. From across the floor, Lena saw it. She didn't interrupt, but she smiled. One honest interaction at a time. That's how change roots. In a quiet corner, Jackson sat near the stockroom, phone to his ear. I need someone who's trained real teams, he said. Not someone who just lives in slides. A pause. I want them embedded here. 6 weeks minimum. Through the glass, he watched Lena inventory with Na, still carrying too much. She's good, he added, but even the best crack without support. Another pause. And let her screen the candidates. She knows what we need. He ended the call with a nod. No speech, no applause. Change doesn't announce itself. It walks in quietly and starts working. The front bell chimed, not a customer this time. Morgan entered. Tall, gray hair, sharp gaze. She didn't wave, didn't smile, just scanned the room like a general assessing a battlefield. Jackson met her halfway. Thanks for coming. I don't do icebreakers, she replied. I do results. She dropped a plain black bag on the counter. Inside, 1 notepad, 2 pens, no laptop. I don't need tech to fix people, she muttered. Lena approached cautiously. Morgan gave her a sharp once-over. You're the one holding this place up? Lena nodded. Trying to. Good, Morgan said. I'm not here to take over. I'm here to test if you're real. Later, Morgan watched Eli help a customer. No pitch, just questions. She scribbled a note in tight script. Listens first, doesn't push, keep. That's how a new chapter began. No confetti, no balloons, just expectations clarified. In the back, Morgan faced the whiteboard of names and shifts. Lena, Na, and Eli stood nearby. Others hovered on the edges. She didn't raise her voice. 4 of you, she said flatly, are doing the work. Everyone froze. The rest, she said, invisible. She tapped the board with her pen. Visible, present, accountable. Then drew a line. Drifting, watching, hiding. Silence rolled through the room like thunder on mute. You want fairness? Morgan said. Start with effort. A cough, a glance, a shift in posture. She walked out without needing to finish the thought. They heard all of it. Later, Lena sat at the service desk after hours, yellow legal pad in front of her. Jackson slid into the chair beside her, coffee in hand. We need a deputy, he said. Not a babysitter, a builder. Lena nodded slowly. Someone who sees ahead, not just reacts. He tapped the table. Exactly. She flipped to a new page. Daily check-ins, rotating leads, someone who mentors. You planning to hire them? He asked. Or become them? She smiled faintly. Maybe both. Good, Jackson said. Start the list, but not skills. Values. She wrote, listens without ego, teaches without flex, doesn't disappear when it's messy. Jackson watched her quietly. This wasn't theory anymore. It was a blueprint. Before leaving, he said one last thing. You're not building for today. You're building what should have been here all along. The next morning, the store lights flickered half on. Dust still lingered from yesterday's rush. Lena arrived, early, backpack over one shoulder. But someone was already there. Riley, not scheduled, not clocked in, kneeling, mopping the entry tiles. You don't start till next week, she said. I know, he replied. Figured if I'm going to lead here someday, I should start by earning the ground I stand on. She looked down. The floors gleamed. You don't need to impress me. I'm not, he said. Just doing what I'd want someone to do if I walked in at 9. Moments later, Jackson entered, coffee in hand. He paused. Who gave you the mop? He asked. No one, Riley said. Figured the store deserved better. Jackson and Lena shared a glance. No need for a handshake. They understood. This guy wasn't here to manage. He was here to serve. Later, Jackson stood outside the break room, unseen. Inside, Lena addressed the team. No slideshow, no clipboard, just her. This store didn't change because we fired people, she said. It changed because some of you chose better. She let that linger. Not louder, not faster, just better, kinder, more present. Jason nodded. Na folded her arms, but her smile betrayed her pride. Riley stood near the back, fully in it. Lena finished. A store doesn't grow from policies. It grows from people who choose to do the right thing when no one's watching. She paused. That's who we are now. Outside the door, Jackson turned. He walked away without a word. He didn't need to stay. The right leader was already in the room, and together they were building something that finally felt real.